Hi, my name is Dr. Felicia, and welcome to Skill Set Counseling, where I focus on the treatment of OCD, spiritual abuse, and cultural abuse. In today's video, I'm going to be answering a question that I hear commonly from spiritual abuse survivors that I work with, and that is, how do I move on after the spiritual abuse has occurred? And I'm going to give you 3 brief tips on how you can do this. The first one is to adopt an anti-fragility mindset. I encourage you to Google this or look on YouTube for other videos on the topic of anti-fragility. But to understand anti-fragility, think about it as moving beyond resilience. So when you think about resilience, you think about enduring or withstanding a hardship. I'll give you a visual of that. Imagine a house that has gone through a storm and pretty much looks untouched while everything else around it is in pieces. That's resilience. That is enduring a hardship and being able to be untouched by it basically after it's occurred, right? And so that is a picture of withstanding and endurance. Anti-fragility goes beyond that. Anti-fragility is becoming even stronger after an injury or an adverse event. So I'm going to give you another word picture. When people work out and lift weights, for example, they develop small injuries of the muscle known as micro tears. And as those micro tears heal, they actually contribute to the mass and strength of the muscle, making it bigger and stronger. In essence, that muscle is stronger and better than it was before the injury that was sustained through working out. And I would like for you to adopt the same mindset when it comes to spiritual abuse. Think about how you can be even better and stronger after the abuse. I know it sounds like a tall order, but it is something that I've witnessed both personally and professionally. And of course, there's several steps that you can get to that process, which I can't cover in this video. But a lot of the work and the recovery that we do starts with our mindset. That is setting the expectations high, but it is achievable. So I want you to think of going beyond resilience and being anti-fragile. And to look into more of this, I have a video called Surprising Strengths of Spiritual Abuse Survivors. And that can help build that mindset and help you understand what are some of the ways you can be even better after going through spiritual abuse. Now, I'm going to make a brief request here, and that if you're finding this information helpful, please hit the thumbs up button and share it with others and subscribe if you haven't already. And what that does is that it helps YouTube get this information out to other people who would also benefit from this information. The second tip in moving past spiritual abuse is to live in defiance of the rules of the spiritually abusive system. I have borrowed this term from another therapist named Jay Reed, who actually has videos here on YouTube, and he talks about how one recovers from narcissistic abuse. And one of the steps is living in defiance of the narcissist rules. And in the same way, you can live in defiance of the rules of the spiritually abusive system. To understand what those rules are, you can journal and journal your own experience, but I have another video in the spiritual abuse playlist, and part of the title is This Normal? And so what that helps you do is identify the behaviors of the spiritually abusive environment, which in essence turn to rules, okay? So think about things that you can do incrementally, of course, that build up over time, that live in defiance of the spiritually abusive system's rules. One way that you can do this is how you process emotions. A frequent theme in spiritually abusive environments is shaming people and calling them either spiritually immature or defective simply because they have a particular type of emotional experience. So in the spiritually abusive environment, you may hear that anger is wrong, and that if you're an angry person, you get shamed for being an angry person. You may be called just immature or just defective because you experience an emotion that is universal to the human race, right? And I've talked about this before in my videos, but the issue that we deal with is when we respond or react in maladaptive ways to emotions. the experience of certain emotions, or I would say all emotions, is not dangerous in and of itself. And so when people have this mindset that, oh, if I have this emotion, I'm a bad person, or I'm dangerous, or this emotion is dangerous, then they're going to react to it in ways that don't help them emotionally. So one thing that you can do is learn to process your emotions in healthy ways. To learn more about this, I have a video called Toxic Positivity in the Church. And you can learn more about how spiritually abusive systems, but sometimes some church cultures in general, shame people for normal human experiences. And so check that out. But one thing you can do is that as you're experiencing an emotion, I want you to just sit back and allow that feeling to pass through. Think about observing it from the perspective of a third person, right? Okay. And try to not react to the feeling, label it, judge it, or have or just tell yourself that you're a bad person because you are feeling something or that you're not feeling something. And by doing this and by allowing yourself to feel and process certain emotions, you actually learn to respond and react to them in healthy ways instead of suppressing them and then having them leak out in other ways that you don't feel comfortable with, or that make you feel emotionally out of control. Okay, so the first two rules, just to recap, first one is anti-fragility. The second one is living in defiance of the rules of the spiritually abusive system. And then the third one is recommitting to your boundaries. And what I mean by that is that as you recover from spiritual abuse, or even as you're going through spiritual abuse, a healthy thing to do is to create boundaries. And I have a video on this channel about boundaries. And so I'd encourage you to watch that video to learn more about how this works. But it can be tempting as you are leaving the spiritually abusive environment, or as you've left it, to kind of renegotiate those boundaries. And it's okay and great to renegotiate boundaries, but if you're doing it for the wrong reason, it can make your recovery process really challenging. So for instance, I talk about isolation that occurs with spiritual abuse survivors. And when people are in spiritually abusive environments, they're very isolated. That's how the system maintains control over its victims. And so as you're moving past that, you may find yourself tempted to renegotiate those boundaries because you're so lonely, you feel worn down, you feel broken and defeated. And so this is a time to recommit to those boundaries, almost like doubling down on them, because you don't want to recreate those patterns that occurred in those spiritually abusive environments. And so I'd encourage you to watch the videos I have about boundaries on this channel to help you understand how to create and maintain healthy boundaries. Okay, so I would like to hear from you in the comments. How have you established and maintained your recovery and moved on after spiritual abuse? If you would like more help and you would like just guidance and therapy along the lines of recovering from spiritual abuse, go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com, and click on the orange button to book a free consultation. You can also click on the link in the description box to do the same thing. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to work with you. Okay, so I hope you have a wonderful and a peaceful day. Bye-bye.